Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay? All right, welcome to the November 20th regular town council meeting for town of Weaverville, North Carolina. And first we have a pretty busy agenda tonight. First on the agenda is something that's a little out of ordinary, but we had some unfortunate issues last week with our technology for people that were dialing in remotely to our workshop on some public hearings. We've corrected that. Appreciate everybody's patience on that. So as a result, we've continued tonight at the beginning of the agenda, 7 public hearings that for people that could not be heard last week. So this is intended for people that were remote last week and didn't get their comments recorded. That's the primary goal here. So we're going to go through those in the same order we did last week. Just a couple notes about those. Again, there's 7 of them in total. We have a few basic rules on public comment. These are specific topics, so if you have a comment about other things, that's great, but this is intended for the topic at hand, and we'll let you know what that is before you get up. You can always question individuals or behaviors or decisions, but of course we ask you not to have any personal attacks on people. This is an opportunity for town council to listen, and town council and staff may not necessarily offer any response to you in the moment. The total public hearing is limited to 20 minutes apiece, but we limit comments for each individual to 3 minutes. So we won't give you a hard stop at 3 minutes, but we'll ask you to wrap it up. And town manager keeps time on that, so you'll know. If you wish to speak, hopefully you signed up for these ahead of time, and we'll call out the people that did. Regardless, if you didn't sign up, you're welcome to come up. We just ask that you identify yourself and your address on where you live. Also, for people that are remote tonight, at the appropriate time, we'll be asking you to raise a hand if you'd like to give a comment. And you can find this virtual hand in your reactions button on Zoom, and we'll recognize you before you give your comment, and then ask you to turn on your video during your comments, if possible. Also, there were a number of written comments that we received before the hearing, and those will be noted by staff as we get going. All right, did I miss anything there, Jen?
Sounds good.
Okay, so with that in mind, we're going to go into this set of continued public hearings, and I'm going to turn it over to our town attorney, Ms. Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Good evening, everyone. We have been over these a number of times, but so this is sort of a last attempt to receive public input on a bunch of hearings tonight. So the first one, I'm assuming you have declared, we'll declare this one open, Mr. Vice Chairman?
Yes.
Okay, so this is on the annexation involving Reems Creek Village recombination areas. And the owners of lots 44, 46, 47, 49, and 50 within Reems Creek Village have each acquired additional land adjoining their respective lots. Those areas, when you add them all together, it's roughly 2.5 acres. These additional properties have been recombined with their existing lots within the Reems Creek Village subdivision. And what they're seeking to do tonight is to annex those lands so that the split jurisdiction can be resolved. Right now, you've got the main lot as Town of Weaverville, getting Town of Weaverville tax bill, and the additional lot is Buncombe County and not within the town's jurisdiction. So they're just trying to clean that up. The town has previously certified the sufficiency of the annexation petition. So this is a continuation of the public hearing from last Tuesday, which was November 14th. Which was advertised in accordance with law. Staff is also here to answer any questions that you might have on this.
Yeah, and we didn't have anybody sign up tonight for this particular public hearing. Do we have anybody online wishing to speak?
While we're checking on that, I will tell you that no written comments were received in advance of this public hearing.
Okay. All right.
I would say that one can be closed.
Yep, so we'll declare that first hearing, the annexation of Reeves Creek recombination closed, rather. And then the second one then would be Reeves Creek Village recombination with zoning, correct?
Yes, sir.
So we're declaring that open.
Yes, thank you. So the annexation petition that was submitted for the Reeves Creek Village recombination areas did come with an initial zoning request for R2. R2 zoning is consistent with the adjoining lots within Reeves Creek Village subdivision. Again, this is a public hearing that was continued from the one that began November 14th, which was advertised in accordance with North Carolina law. The planning board does offer a unanimous favorable recommendation on the R2 zoning that is requested for these properties and has found that R2 zoning is consistent with a comprehensive land use plan. The town council's recently adopted resolution concerning the growth areas and reasonable. No written comments were received on this either.
And we don't have any signups for it, for speaking in person. Do we have anybody online wishing to speak on this one? Okay, so with that, we'll declare that second hearing closed, and we'll open the third hearing, 300 Hamburg Mountain Road annexation.
So this annexation is the Windsor-built homes Reeves Creek project, which carries with it a little bit of a funny address. It's actually fronting on Reeves Creek Road, not Hamburg Mountain Road, but it is really close to that intersection. It is a uniquely shaped piece of property. You can see the map that's attached or on the screens. Joseph Penley and Reeves Creek Village LLC have submitted an annexation petition seeking to have a total of about 9.5 acres annexed into the town. They're wanting to receive town services, including water, which town council at your last meeting, I believe, went ahead and granted the water subject to annexation into the town's limits. What is proposed in the water commitment is connected to a 35 lot single family subdivision that is proposed for this property. The clerk has previously certified the sufficiency, and the annexation does need the public hearing that started November 14th to be continued tonight. So that's what we're here to do. No written comments were received in advance. There is a staff report concerning this annexation in your packet, and staff is available to answer any questions that town council may have.
Okay, and we don't have anybody here signed up to speak tonight. Does anybody on the line wish to speak on this one? Okay.
No.
All right, so that one is closed as well.
I want to make a comment. Can I do that, please?
Yes.
I just want to confirm that I've read this correctly. This is a gated community with private roads.
Yes, we
Okay.
have not received any indication that they wish to have public streets, town streets within that subdivision. And they have indicated a couple of times at least that it is intended to be gated, and I'm seeing nods of heads from the developer.
Okay. Well, John and I was talking about it today, so just want to make sure.
Right. Good question. Okay. All right, so that public hearing will be closed, and then we'll open the public hearing on the R3 zoning for 300 Hamburg Mountain Road.
Yes, sir. So this, again, is a continuation of the public hearing on the R3 zoning for this property that began on November 14th. That public hearing was advertised in accordance with North Carolina law. This project does come with a request for R3 zoning, really to accommodate some small lot sizes that are expected within the project. Not really a density issue, but more of a small lot size issue. The planning board did offer a favorable recommendation on R3 zoning for these properties and found that R3 is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan and town council's recently adopted resolution addressing growth area 5 and reasonable.
And we do not have anybody signed up for this in person as well. Anybody online? Okay, so,
And no written comments were received either.
all right, thank you. So we will declare that one closed. The next one is annexation request for Northridge Farms. We do have several people signed up to speak tonight. First one would be Dinah Young.
Would you like an introduction before we jump into
Yes,
that?
I'm sorry.
So the property owners comprising the properties on which the Northridge Farms development is approved for have signed a voluntary annexation petition seeking to have a total of about 88 acres, which are located in the Gill Branch Valley, south of the Northridge Commons Shopping Center. You can see a map on the screen, annexed into the town of Weaverville. It's important to note that the Northridge Farms development has been approved by Buncombe County and consists of 568 dwelling units in a variety of housing types. The petitioners do claim vested rights to develop the properties in accordance with that special use permit that was issued by Buncombe County in February of this year, and a related approved master site plan, which includes some minor modifications that were approved on September 22nd. I know we have not had any formal written comments received on this for this public hearing. However, I'm aware of several emails that have been sent directly to town council over the last, 3, 4, 5 days. Most of those seem to be centered on the access off of Gill Branch Road. So this property is accessed in two ways. One is through the Northridge Commons Parkway. Is that right? Am I saying it right? Northridge Commons Parkway, which is a private street that runs through the Northridge Commons Shopping Center right off of 2570. The other access to this property is through Gill Branch Road, which is also a state-maintained road. But it is important to note that the special use permit that was approved by Buncombe County included the following provision, and I'm going to quote this directly from the special use permit. Gill Branch Road is to be gated and is exit only for resident use. Only fire, rescue, and law enforcement may use Gill Branch Road as an entrance onto the property. So that is part of the vested right. And so this property does come to you with that provision. It would only be if the developer is willing to make some changes that you would want in that regard. If they are agreeable to any changes with regard to that, then that is acceptable. But that can be done. But at this point, I certainly have not heard any discussion from council, either formally or informally, to propose opening that entrance up to in and out traffic from residential, for the residential routine traffic. But I do know that a lot of the emails that were sent over the weekend are, I believe, requesting that town council consider withdrawing any access, routine residential access over through the Gill Branch Road access. So I just wanted to point that out to you as an issue that you may hear from, or you certainly have heard from in the last few days. Town clerk has previously certified the sufficiency of the annexation petition. This is a continued public hearing from November 14th, which was advertised in accordance with law. There is a staff report that's provided to you in your packet. Staff is available to answer any questions that you might have, as are the developer and their representative. They are here as well.
Okay.
This is on the annexation. We'll talk about the zoning.
Your 3 minutes are up.
I am cut off.
Excuse me, sorry about that.
And we're still in the public hearing.
Yeah.
It's an agenda item 8, whatever. 8F for later.
Yes, this is at this point, you're just receiving input.
Correct. And we have 4 people signed up to speak on both this and the following hearing, which is the zoning for it. So I'm assuming it's okay for them to go ahead and comment
Absolutely.
on both, okay? So we'll ask you to come up once, if that's all right. The first person signed up is Ms. Dinah Young, 25 Gill Branch Road.
We live at 25 Gill Branch Road and have 50 years. From the day we were married, that's where we've lived. That's where we've raised our family. And as have most of the residents on our road. We understand that North Ridge Farms will occur regardless of our input on the matter.
Ma'am, we're having a problem. Can I ask you to hold tight for one quick second?
Sure.
Are you gonna stop her timer or are you gonna let her time?
I will stop the timer.
You guys are gonna miss me.
It may be that you need to speak just a tiny bit louder into the
Well, I
mic.
don't think I can yell at you.
We don't
I
mind.
didn't come down and yell at anybody.
Yell at us. We're
Go
good.
ahead.
We understand that North Ridge Farms will occur regardless of our input on the matter. What we do ask is that the original plan approved by the Buncombe County Board of Adjustment regarding Gill Branch Road as access for emergency vehicles only be upheld and the road not be used as an exit route for the development. This would be devastating to all the residents. Some are elderly and they walk in the road. Some have babies, if they use strollers, they stroll their babies. Children are on bicycles, they walk their dogs. And our one-lane road, it's roughly paved, can't accommodate 2 cars passing in opposite directions without veering into a neighbor's yard in some of the areas. Signage may say exit only, but we know signs are just that, signs that are ignored, especially if people want a shortcut or a short wait time. What we know as a green space for us and the North Ridge townhomes at the end of our road would be destroyed. During construction, all the dump trucks, heavy equipment, utilities, etc., they would use that exit out on our road to get to Monticello Road faster. This may take a few years, but once completed, there will be constant flow of residents, tenants, sightseers, realtors, moving vans, school buses, Amazon, UPS, FedEx, etc. Please leave our road as it is so we can enjoy what we've worked so hard for. And we can age in peace. Come visit our road and notice the distance that it is to Monticello. The width of it and the quiet neighborhood, you will understand why we are upset and how it will impact us and why we are pleading for your help in not allowing Gill Branch Road to be used as an access for North Ridge or any other development except emergency vehicles only. Developers look for the least expensive ways to provide convenience for buyers regardless of who is impacted, but they can also develop roads to accommodate their plans. We respectfully ask this be done in our case. Thank you for listening to our plea for help.
Thank you, Ms. Young. And did you say you'd be speaking for Roger as well? Okay. All right, great. Thank you. Next up is Roger Young, excuse me, I got that wrong. 24 Gill Branch Road in Weaverville.
Yeah, I'm here to ask you to leave our road alone too. I've lived there all my life. It's a quiet neighborhood road with a dead end. There's 14 houses on it. And a lot of elderly people, so there's hardly any traffic as far as cars. If you open it up, there's gonna be hundreds of cars going up and down that road. As already stated, it is a very narrow road. Where you come out on the Monticello Road, there's an S curve there. You have to wait one at a time to get through that. I hope you know where Gill Branch Road is and it have drove it to where you understand what we're talking about. And as she stated, there's a lot of people that use it to walk that comes from the other development and even from the apartments out there. It's just a neighborhood road, and we ask you to please leave it that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person signed up, Bill Cheek at 42 Gill Branch Road.
And Mr. Vice Mayor, Mr. Cheek was at your meeting on Tuesday and did give some comments. It is in your discretion to allow him to give additional
Yeah,
comments.
I understand. I'll allow him.
That's me again. My name is Bill Cheek, and I live at 42 Gill Branch, so a lot of this is going to be repetitive, but it's important to me to be heard again. Our family farm does border the proposed development, so we will be impacted tremendously. And we did receive quite a few responses from quite a few of you folks and phone calls, and even a visit. And let me tell you, we really appreciate you guys getting back to us and listening. That's good stuff. So I'll keep this short and to the point. There are many things I would like to argue, debate, and scream about, but the truth is that us on Gill Branch really have only one thing left to hang on to, and that is our road, like Dinah and Roger have already mentioned. It's narrow, it's pastoral, it's quiet, and it's dark, and it truly doubles as our greenway. We do see maybe 6 to 10 cars a day, and most of those people are lost. We have to turn them around. Many of us walk our road every day, and like it's been said, we do see families and strollers and bikes and the elderly, and it's safe and beautiful. With this said, me and my family are adamantly opposed to the use of Gill Branch Road by the new development of any traffic other than the emergency vehicles. We are opposed to the access to the development of our road for the residents, utility trucks, garbage trucks, and construction vehicles. Let them use the already approved, well-lit, easily accessible road 2 points into the shopping center. This is truly so important to us. Please, please give us this and leave Gill Branch alone. Thank you.
Thank you. And last on the sign-ups, Becky Cheek. Same address, 42 Gill Branch Road. Figured as much.
My name's Becky Cheek, and I want to say thank you for your service. I know that this development brings a magnitude, a volume that you're not used to dealing with. So thank you for your service. I'm going to try not to cry because this is very personal to us. I live on 42 Gill Branch Road on a 25-acre farm that's been in my family for 70 years and 5 generations. It's frustrating to find myself here yet again fighting for my neighborhood. How much more can be taken from us? We've already lost the property behind us to the shopping center, and it was a crushing blow to find out we would be losing our southern view to Northridge Farms. We currently look at beautiful pasture land and rolling hills with only 1 home and 1 trailer. Now we'll be looking at 600 units of who knows what, as well as lights, noise, and construction for years to come. Our only glimmer of hope was at the Buncombe County meeting. My husband sat there for 4 hours and listened to every word. He said not once was a one-way exit discussed regarding our road, only that emergency vehicles would be allowed in. Now all of a sudden the story has changed and we are frustrated and mad. Our road is quiet, calm, and very narrow. Those of you have come and seen it, have seen. We're barely able to pass each other as it is. Children ride bikes on it, parents push strollers, people walk their dogs, people jog. An elderly woman with dementia loves to walk around her front yard where the road is narrow and in a curve. Parents already park behind the condominiums up at the entrance to our street to get their kids from the bus, and it's really hard to get past them already in the S-curve that Roger Young talked about. We maybe have 6 to 10 cars a day now. It's a very safe place to be. It's dark and quiet, like everybody else has mentioned. Please do not take this from us. Our road cannot handle potentially 1,200 cars. This is based on nearly 600 units. You assume most families have at least 2 cars. We're a family of 4. When our kids were still at home, we had 5 cars and kids coming and going. So I'm just guessing, 1,200 cars a day exiting that development. Now they're saying garbage trucks, utility vehicles, buses, and emergency vehicles, not to mention all the construction vehicles that will plague our area for who knows how many years. The homes on the road are already pretty close to the road. And if you widen the roads, you're going to be right in front of somebody's door. There aren't that many places to expand our road. This really would destroy our street. Please spare our road. It's really all we have left.
Thank you. All right, so that concludes the public sign-up comments for this. Do we have anybody online that wishes to speak? Okay, so this is the Northridge portion of it. We opened the public
annexation.
comment for the annexation, excuse me. And now we'll open the public hearing for the zoning. We've already heard from these folks on both.
I would see, since they did sign up for both, I would ask if anybody would like to give additional comments under the zoning section that is signed up.
Everybody good on that? Okay,
Okay.
great.
On the zoning, let me just get there. So if we're opened on the zoning the zoning hearing on the Northridge Farms, again, this is a continuation of the public hearing that began on November 14th. This is there are 2 possibilities of zoning on this property. We talked about this on Tuesday, but I'll say again for those that are just hearing me for the first time. Well, first of all, I'll say again that the special use permit that was issued by Buncombe County on February 10th, 2023, and as amended in September of this year, is still in place and will be in place for this project. But even though vested rights are claimed and legally claimed for this property and acknowledged, the property still must have annexation, or must have a zoning designation. And when the planning board looked at this at their meeting on November 7th, they sent up a little bit of an unusual recommendation in that they sent up an option. They said either R3, which is really the closest traditional zoning district that they could find, and thought that was appropriate if you wanted to do that and then just keep the special use permit in place. The other option that they considered and recommended was to have you create a conditional district that applies all of the provisions of the special use permit, dumps those into a conditional district, and then any other provision that town council might wish to put in there if the developer agrees. And one of the areas that has been discussed actually pretty consistently on this is the developer the developer's agreement to allow or to install a greenway through this property, through this project, to provide access by the Monticello Road folks and Northridge Commons Shopping Center folks to a future Reems Creek Greenway that is planned, or at least on a list of planning for the town. The developer has agreed to that at the podium several times, and has put that in writing, and so that has been added to the conditional district. But I'm going to re-emphasize one point, and then we'll see if there's any public comment. But the special use permit that is already in place and governing on this property literally says that Gill Branch Road is to be gated and does provide exit-only residential traffic. So as it currently is, and I'm not sure where the miscommunication happened at the county level, but that is in the special use permit that was issued in February of this year. So unless the developer is willing to abandon that provision, the town is stuck with that. Now, it doesn't say use by construction vehicles. It just says fire rescue and law enforcement, and entrance and exit only for residential use. Now, staff proposed one other change to the conditional district, and that was to broaden that what I'll call the back entrance, the Gill Branch access, to allow sanitation services and public utility installation or maintenance to go through that entrance. Use that as an entrance. Those are literally the only two changes that are proposed to what is legally required to be honored. The planning board did review and sent you that favorable recommendation on one track or the other, R3 or the conditional district. At your meeting on Tuesday, there was a town council informal conversation that you were leaning more towards the conditional district. I will tell you, from staff's perspective, we support that conditional district creation. I think it just makes it cleaner. If this project were coming to you, it would be coming to you as a conditional district. So it would be odd to not treat this as a conditional district. It also is what the developer is requesting as well. Any questions of me before?
Still a public hearing.
Yes,
You don't want
absolutely.
us to be talking right now.
No,
A bunch of
just,
questions.
okay.
Right,
I'm just asking.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
I would certainly expect that the majority of your conversation will occur during the action portion, but if there are questions that you think need to be answered to help the public understand what's happening, or to help yourselves, I'm happy to answer questions.
Right. And on this part, which again is the initial zoning on Northridge Farms, do we have anybody online wishing to speak? Okay. All right. I think with that, then, we are closing that hearing, initial zoning for Northridge Farms, and moving on to the last one that was continued, which will open, which is comprehensive land use plan update.
Last one, and then I'll be quiet for a little while.
And I don't have anybody signed.
Okay, so real quickly, this is just an annual update to the comprehensive land use plan. Amendments include an updated action plan table with priorities, an updated future land use map, the inclusion of the resolution concerning development within identified growth areas, including the one that you just amended and restated at your last meeting, inclusion of the pedestrian and bicycle plan, and essentially automatic inclusion of updated demographic data and any strategic plan that you might adopt coming out of the retreat in January.
Okay, now nobody signed up to speak in person. Do we have anybody online that wishes to comment here? Okay,
And one last thing, Planning Board did on October 3rd, review and provided a favorable recommendation on these updates.
great. Okay, so nobody wants to speak on that, so we'll consider that, and that's the last continued public hearing. We'll declare that closed. All right, so moving on now. Council, everybody's had a chance to look over the agenda for tonight. Does anybody have any suggestions or adjustments they wish to have?
Yeah, I'm struggling a little bit. I'm struggling a little bit, actually, with having this on the agenda tonight, the Northridge Farms. The mayor's not here. I believe this is the largest development in the last 8 years. Am I getting a head nod from James? So this is the largest development we have going on, and the mayor's not here. So I find that, yeah, disconcerting. But if it's not on the agenda, then I'm not here next month. So question if I want to hear myself speak or not as a council member or speak as a citizen. So I would make a motion, or I would recommend we pull it from the agenda tonight. But that's just me, one of 6.
And that would be based on,
The mayor not being here, and this is the largest project I've seen in 8 years on council. But
right.
just my opinion.
I think there's a lot of discussion that needs to be had about this that maybe we haven't had. Maybe some miscommunications, maybe some misunderstandings, and I don't feel ready to vote on this tonight.
Would you, one of the things that you can do is keep it on this agenda and start those conversations and see where you get. Just because you have the discussion doesn't mean that you have to take action tonight, if that's helpful.
I get that. I think there's a fair amount of discussion that needs to happen,
I think,
whether we do it tonight or next month or both.
I think it'd be good to get some of the questions out from the council. We don't necessarily have to vote, but I think it would be good to address the concerns that we have and then maybe vote on it December or January.
It may be a good, it may be a good opportunity if you did have questions that we don't
Yeah.
have answers to tonight, that we could bring those back to you.
But I
If you
think
want
it'd
to
be okay anyway.
begin the discussion tonight and
Discuss
then
it.
continue it.
So I'll withdraw my request to take it off the agenda.
okay, so let's see where we're at when we get to that part of the agenda. We'll air out everything we're thinking now and go from there. Sound good?
Yes.
Okay, fair
So
enough.
just so I'm clear, it's still on the agenda. We're going to talk about it.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
Thank you.
A motion to approve the agenda as written unless there are other changes that you have would be in order.
I'll make that motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so the agenda's approved. Conflict of interest, as everybody knows, it's the duty of the mayor and every town council member to avoid both conflicts of interest and appearances of conflicts. Does anybody, any known member have a known conflict of interest or appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before council tonight? Okay, I'm not seeing any. So we'll move on then to the consent agenda with the town manager coffee. So Celine, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Actually, I have a little bit of a surprise addition to the agenda, just to offer some thanks to you and Councilman Nagel. This is your last meeting unless you just want to keep attending these meetings. And so we have prepared a certificate of appreciation to each of you. And it says the following award is given to, in this case, Andrew Nagel. This certificate is given to Andrew Nagel in appreciation of your service as town council member for the town of Weaverville from 2015 to 2023. And we'll pass that down to you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And then same for Vice Mayor McKenna. Certificate is given to Jeff McKenna in appreciation for your service as town council member and vice mayor for the town of Weaverville from 2018 to 2023. I think I can safely say on behalf of town council and town staff that we recognize that what you all do is a thankless job oftentimes. And so we want to thank you. It's been a pleasure for me to work with both of you. Again, I'm sure I speak for everyone here. So we want to thank you for that. And that was at the mayor wanted to make sure that this was provided to you to know.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very nice.
So going in and all the way, by the way, Jennifer brought the candy there.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Most important part.
What page are you on for your consent agenda?
I'm on page 80.
Thank you.
Beginning with the October 23rd Town Council regular meeting minutes on page 80. And then moving on to page 84 is the monthly tax report. There you'll see a request for approval of tax releases and refunds. As you see midway down that first page on page 84, property tax levy release of $3,200, property tax refunds of $2,100 and some change. Also just to note that as of right now, we are at $712,398 in collected real property, personal property, and business property. And that's out of 4.1, let's say 4.17, just to round up, $1 million. On page 89, you have a budget amendment form. This budget amendment is to include $784.13 for the Cops for Kids program, which is in the police department budget. Also, $3,246 for alcohol education and $2,318.57 for law enforcement. And then finally, and this is something that we have addressed with you at with my last town manager's report, and I've actually included it in this month as well, is another quote proposal from Elevated Trail Design to prepare a quote for trail layout, design, and planning for the parcels of property that town owns on Quarry Road. And this associated cost for this for the concept plan is $4,750, and that would come from general fund balance. On page 91, you will see, well, page 91, in the next couple of pages, actually, you will see some recommendations. I'm recommending that we increase some deposits, most significantly for the use of the community center. And frankly, the bottom line here is that we are having folks that are doing more damage than we had initially. And it is, I feel, is appropriate that we increase the deposits at the very least. But we do have some additional increases, and these increases you'll see on the following pages, page 92 and 93. Those are in highlights, and you see we have stricken through the old fees and have the new fees there for you. We've also done some comparisons of other jurisdictions where they have a community center or something similar. And so I would make the recommendation that these be approved. I will tell you that I have given a direction to our community center manager that she is to keep deposits if it is necessary. And we have found that to be the case, where folks have actually done damage to our doors and that kind of thing. It's more than just cleaning up after themselves oftentimes. It's doing actual damage to the building. And I don't think any of us want to see that building destroyed. So would make these recommendations to you. I will also share with you in December, I've asked that Sarah, our community center manager, attend the meeting and give you a report similar to what Ms. Chauval provided to you some time back when she was still with us. And to give you an idea of how many weddings, how many birthday parties, how many Weaverville Center for Creative and Healthy Living events, those types of things. So she will be here for the December meeting to give you an update on that. I would recommend that these be approved, though, and the fee schedule be amended to incorporate these new fees effective immediately.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Are the remediation or corrections to these when we get the fees and charge them, is that being corrected or immediately with the damage?
Yes, Dale and his folks have done some work to make some repairs. We've also had to call some other folks in
Okay.
to make some repairs. We've had to call our cleaning crew to come in when they're not usually scheduled, to do some deep cleaning, and to repair, places, marks on not just marks, but significant areas of concern on the floors, clean up outdoor patio spaces. We've had a number of problems. We are actively also putting folks on let's call it the blacklist, the do not rent to them again. Although we all know that all they have to do is go to someone else and ask that someone use their name to apply. So we're doing everything within our power to ensure that the facility is taken care of. We do have, as you all know, we do have cameras down there, so we can see a lot of what is going on, and we can do follow up in that
The
way.
last thing along that line, if the damage exceeds the deposit,
Yes.
what can you do?
That we have in our facility use agreement that we can take advantage of insurance, and that we can come after them for the full amount.
Okay, thank you.
I will remind you too that, and I think this is important to remember, is that when we are allowing alcohol in the building, we are requiring that folks obtain a $1 million rider to their insurance. And so we do have that as an option if we find that alcohol is the reason for the abuse of the facility, and we can claim that with regard to insurance. And that's standard practice anywhere you go when you're renting space.
Thank you.
Do you need a motion then to approve that?
If we could just wait and approve it all with the consent agenda, that would be fantastic. So the next item is page 94, and this is the ABC audit update. We felt like this year was probably appropriate just to go ahead and give you just a summary of the ABC audit. Not a whole lot of changes to the ABC audit, but I will point you in the direction of mid-page there on page 94. Gross sales increased by $264,297. That's a roughly 6% increase over the prior year. The gross sales totaled roughly $4.9 million at our ABC store. Distributions made to the town total $461,887, and of course you see the breakdown there for law enforcement, restricted law enforcement, as well as alcohol education and rehabilitation, and then profit distribution. Working capital, or what they refer to as fund balance, we call as savings, Andrew calls savings, is totaled roughly $480,000, which will exceed the minimum that they need to fall in the middle of the range. Assets exceed liabilities by roughly $478,000. The final item on the consent agenda is approval of the updates to the comprehensive land use plan. And we would ask that you approve the attached resolution, which is on page 96, that would approve those amendments that we have, that you'll see on pages 97 through 100. And that is all of the consent agenda, Mr. Vice Mayor.
All right, so do we have a motion to accept the items in the consent agenda?
Make the motion.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All against, say nay. All right, ayes have it. And then you're still up, Selena, with the town manager's report.
Yes, thank you, sir. I want to start off the topic of water levels. As you all know, there are a number of jurisdictions around us that are reacting to the drought that we've in our region, and really the state and other, well, the southeast region and other places in the United States have had some drought situations. But I want to give you an update. I have provided you with some email updates, but I wanted to give you an update, and this is for the audience to hear as well as you all. We do continue to monitor the Ivy River, and I think it's interesting if you see the paragraph there. We can screw up, yeah, we're there. Most recently, the Ivy River gauge, which is located approximately 4 miles downstream from our intake, has held at 2 feet in height and 30 cubic feet per second, and we're only using 2.4 of that. So we remain in very good shape with the Ivy River. However, I'm not opposed to if we get to a place where we need to implement some conservation measures, whether they be voluntary or mandatory. Have no problem with bringing those to you for approval. But we continue to stay in good shape, and I appreciate Mr. Wilson continuing to keep an eye on the river there. Water rate study, we have started that process. Again, this is a part of the resolution that you approved back in June of 2022, I believe it was, and that was to start looking at water rates. And we have met with Withers Ravenel, who's working to develop a draft water rate study for our review. We did, as staff, give them 5 goals that we expected that they would try to keep in mind as they were developing the water rate study, and those are listed here for you, and I'll just go through them real quickly. One is to develop a much simpler structure than we currently have. As you all have seen our fee schedule, it is fairly complicated. We want to simplify that. Also to look at setting a base rate, including a volumetric fee. The third is to develop a rate structure including residential and commercial rates while not penalizing industry. To explore and use best practices and innovation as best we can. And then finally, develop a structure that allows the town to maintain a healthy fund balance in the water fund. Potentially around 50% is what Withers Ravenel has kind of recommended as across the state, what folks are doing. Short-term rentals, as you all know, this is something that we have been working on, and we've signed a contract with Land of Sky to do the facilitation for short-term rental listening sessions. You have some bulleted lists there. I've also placed a couple of flyers at each of your spaces. The first session is a listening session for the general public, and that one's scheduled for Tuesday, December 5th. That is the night of a planning board meeting. Planning board meeting meets at 6, and so we would anticipate going through the planning board agenda and then opening up to the listening session. So I think on the flyers that you have, it does list it correctly, which is 7 o'clock to begin that one, so it's directly after the planning board meeting. The second session is a focus group and listening session. This is for neighborhoods with at least one short-term rental and no declaration of covenants that restrict the establishment of short-term rentals. That one is scheduled for Tuesday, January 9th, and that one is scheduled for here at Town Hall at 6 p.m. And then finally, a virtual facilitated listening session for short-term rental owners. And this is for Wednesday, January 17th at 6 p.m. That one is scheduled via Zoom. I will note that there are flyers on the table, on the wall there, that the same ones that you have that give the Zoom link, and which was just set up today. So those have been scheduled, and we look forward to hearing from the community on that topic. Lake Louise Park updates, playground equipment. The installation was supposed to have been completed last week. Dale is saying yes, it was. Installation of curbing around the playground has begun with the installation of the handicap-friendly standalone features to follow. The material that will be poured in place for fall protection will begin this week. We anticipate the completion around the end of November unless we have excessive rain or other inclement weather. Recreation complex is scheduled to be completed by December 1. We're moving along very quickly there, and you'll see that won't go through that entire paragraph, but you will see what is left to be done. But we are working at getting all of that completed, and if you drive by there, you'll see a huge difference in the space above the community center. I have included a copy of, on page 104, a copy of Lake Louise Outdoor Recreation Complex rules. These rules will be put into place immediately, but will be adjusted as we need to. We are building the plane as we're flying it here in this situation, and so we have taken these rules from a lot of other places that have you know have had good starts to their pickleball complex, and so we feel like this is a good list of rules, but we may need to adjust it, and we will do that if we need to. Update on trail planning design. You've already approved the budget amendment on that, but I did provide you with a copy on page begin on page 105. That's the plan for how that concept plan will go. Update on street improvement program. We are underway with new driveway entrances being installed on Wildwood Knoll, Wildwood Park, and Roberts Street. Expect to begin milling and paving and continue with these streets as well as Central Avenue and Alabama Avenue until cold weather requires us to slow down or halt our activity until spring. Moving on to page 103, I will be handing out at the next meeting, we'll be handing out some homework for you for the strategic planning retreat, and also a book that I've bought for each of town council members to be prepared for your January 20th strategic planning retreat. Also, staff will be holding a new council member orientation on Thursday, December 14th. We're very fortunate that our two newest folks have been our member graduates of the most recent Citizens Academy, so it gives them a little bit of a leg up on everything, but we'll do a deeper dive into the town's functions at that point in time. Also, Citizens Academy, we are filling up fast to begin in January. I've got space for about 4 more if we want to max it out. Really prefer not to go over 25 because it just makes it difficult logistically to have more than that. But so if you know folks that you want to recommend to attend, we've got a little bit more space left. And then finally, just some additional, just some upcoming dates and important events for you. Any questions on the manager's report?
I have a question on short-term rentals. What kind of promotion are we going to be doing so that, you know, the public knows these other than the flyers you gave us today?
Thank you for bringing that up. I had a note right here, but I didn't read it to you. Of course, we got the flyers on the table. We are posting the same thing on Facebook, on Instagram, on our website, and we'll send those through the Tribune as well.
Okay. One other question, will we have an accurate count of what our short-term rental numbers are?
We should.
When we do this? Okay.
We should have that. I will tell you that Land and Sky is still working diligently at making sure that we have accurate numbers. I cannot give you a number today. They are working through all of the numbers that they've received through AirDNA, which is similar to the service that Granicus, which is we've talked about that in the planning board meetings before. Granicus, however, is more of a monitoring service, so they don't necessarily have all of the accurate let's say the short-term rentals that are currently in place, but they are able to monitor future ones. So that's one thing that I've learned about Granicus. And I'm not saying that we couldn't use that in the future if we wanted to use it as a monitoring tool. But AirDNA will be providing numbers. AirDNA, however, will not allow us to share specific information about who owns those properties and that type of thing.
Well, we've already shared that.
It's not from AirDNA, we have not.
Okay. We as a town have shared that publicly. I have a copy of it. It was presented to the council. So we're not supposed to share it?
That was not through AirDNA.
I know that. I got you. I'm with you. 100%.
Yeah.
But so
No,
why aren't they sharing it?
If it's part of their
Okay.
company.
Gotcha.
They have
Okay.
rules about privacy,
Right.
you know.
But we didn't, so, no, we
Well,
shared it with them.
When you're saying we, it's me. I made that list.
What we,
Airbnb.
what we shared, because it was shared in a public meeting, is
Right.
not
It's
public
public.
record.
I know. I'm
Yeah.
fully aware.
Yeah. So,
I know what I'm saying.
yeah.
Airbnb is public too. You can get that information by going on there.
Airbnb is, AirDNA is
That's where I
not.
got it.
AirDNA is not, though.
AirDNA is who NCDOT worked with, Andrew, to get a huge report for all counties. And it came to Land of Sky through NCDOT, and it's huge. And they won't give it to us and let us sort it ourselves. They're responsible for it, and then they will tell us our location, and then they'll give Waynesville their location, and, Asheville a different report.
Just a question, then, how does anybody feel confidence in the numbers they provide if there's no detail behind it or auditing or anything? We're just taking them for granted they're compiling it correctly?
Well, it's,
Which
from
is
what I was told at the MPO meeting, is that when everybody got together and started talking about needing these reports, they tried to, what's the word, when you try to buy a report? And the people came back and said, we can get you a humongous report for about the same price if it would come, if you want to give us this contract. And so this AirDNA is very well known for the reports but they come in humongous database. And it's almost like having an Excel spreadsheet with a million things in it. And so, but part of the contract is that they won't let the MPO give it to the individual towns.
Correct.
They expect the MPO to break it up and then give to the town only what the town needs
Correct.
by town
By town and not zip code.
and not zip code.
That's correct.
So the town has to summarize it and, yeah, they're giving you a database with rules.
With
strengths
just
and-
our town.
Yeah, okay.
And then we can play with it how we want to.
Yeah, I mean, there are, as we all know, when you're dealing with data of any kind, there are, you're gonna have some inactives, and you're gonna have some that are on the list that are no longer, they're on a list with AirDNA, but maybe they're not still, using their space as a short-term rental, so there are a lot of different pieces to this that we're going to have to be aware of as we consider the information. But AirDNA does pull the information from all of the most well-known sites.
Expedia and Airbnb and
That's-
VRBO
Yes.
and, home away from home.
Okay.
Do we know if their report will separate, for instance, whole houses and not whole house
No,
Airbnbs? It does not, or we don't know.
it's my understanding that it does not. I'm getting confirmation from staff back here. It does not.
Thank you. All right, so now we've got general public comment. And again, this would be for anybody who would like to have public comment about any of the other topics we haven't talked about already. just town business in general, or something else on your mind. I don't know if I got a sheet. We had a sign-up sheet for general. Oh, we did, sorry. Nobody was signed up. Does anybody wish to speak or anybody online wish to speak about any other topic? Okay. All right, seeing none, so we'll close the general public comment. And so now we're into discussion and action items. So the first item on that is a presentation by our auditor, Travis Keever.
Should I turn the,
Timer on, please.
What is it? Will I get 3 minutes?
no, less.
Councilman Nagel, if I get some of your Sour Patch Kids, I'll be done in 2 minutes or less.
You're more than welcome.
Yeah. We don't come to you.
I think we had some slides.
They're up.
Let's see 'em. All right, well, good evening, everybody. We have concluded the June 30, 2023 audit of the town's financial statements. Let's go to the first slide. So again, thank you for allowing us to serve as your auditors. We've been doing it for a number of years now, and we always find it enjoyable, probably more so than you all do. Special thanks to Tanya and all of her staff, Selena, all the staff in the town. They're a pleasure to work with every year, and this year was no different. We issued an unmodified or a clean opinion on the June 30, 2023 financial statements. We also reported no material weaknesses in internal control, and we reported no instances of material non-compliance with laws and regulations. That's about as good a result as you can get from the work that you engage us to do. So good job on that. Let's go to the next slide. This is a new slide for this year. About 2 years ago, the Local Government Commission started an initiative where at the end of every audit, we compile some data, put it in a spreadsheet that they've asked for, send it to them. They've got some benchmarks built into the spreadsheet. If any of the data we submit triggers one of their benchmarks or comes in below it, they raise we'll call it a red flag for lack of a better word. They call it a financial performance indicator of concern. If we have any of those, I'm required by them to present those at the public meeting. You haven't had any the first couple of years. This one, we had one pop up. It's relatively mild in relative to the rest of the benchmarks they set. But in this case, your water and sewer fund assets are greater than 50% depreciated, crossed over the 50% threshold in FY23. They consider that as a bit of a red flag because it can be indicative of significant capital needs related to water and sewer infrastructure coming up in the near future. But of course, you all have already been having internal discussions about water infrastructure and plant expansion and things like that. So again, that was the only one that popped up. I think it's relatively minor. The only thing is they do require a written response to these. So I'll work with Tanya over the next, I think 60 days is when we have to have that submitted by to craft a response. And then I believe that has to come back before you all for signature. But we'll get that going. The next slide is a summary of general fund revenues. The general fund had about $7.9 million in total revenue during FY23. The biggest share of that, of course, was ad valorem taxes. That was about 53% of it, at $4.2 million. We had $1.9 million in local option sales taxes. The $947,000 of unrestricted intergovernmental, that includes utility sales taxes, the ABC distributions that Selena referenced earlier, that's all in that number. And then your other amount of $774,000, that included $307,000 in investment earnings or bank interest, which is exponentially higher than that's been in many years. So that was a nice little boost to the town. The next slide is a similar chart, just on the expenditure side. We had expenditures in total of $5.3 million. The largest of that, of course, was the police department. General government was second, which includes administrative functions, finance department, planning, things of that nature, right at $1.3 million. And then sanitation and stormwater, 724,000. And not included in here is you all, of course, transfer money every year, I think close to $1 million to the fire department fund to help subsidize that operation. The next slide is a bar chart of general fund balance and available fund balance over time. See over the last 3 years, they've all trended upwards. Fund balance, of course, is your total assets minus total liabilities in the general fund. Available fund balance is the calculation that the LGC wants to see. That's basically your cash on hand less your accounts payable. And you can see they're both kind of tracking in the same direction, and pretty healthy fund balance there in the general fund. The next slide is a bar chart that takes your fund balance available, the number from the previous slide, and compares that as a percentage of your expenditures in the general fund. I put a couple of benchmarks on here. The green line at the bottom is all municipalities in the state of North Carolina. The blue line are municipalities just in your population group. And the red line, of course, is the town. And so you can see the last 2 years especially, you've trended well above both lines. 2021 was a little bit of an intentional dip. That's when we transferred out about $2.3 million to pay for the community center. So that kind of jacked expenditures way up that year, which goes into the denominator of that formula. And also in 2020 and 2021, the fire department was reporting the general fund. So expenditures were a little higher in those years also. Next slide.
So can I ask, just for the public? So we have 121% in our savings account of our annual expenditures.
Yes,
So whatever you spend a year in your home, the town has 121% of that. So a lot of money saved.
it's a healthy fund balance. Yeah.
That's why we're buying a big old fire truck this year.
Thank you.
The next slide is a summary of some enterprise fund data, which enterprise funds, water and sewer fund. Here, and this compares 2022 to 2023. See the numbers are fairly comparable, generally trending upward. Working capital, which is current assets minus current liabilities. Again, that's another healthy balance in the water and sewer fund. We've got about $5.3 million in working capital. You've got about 28 months worth of expenditures sitting in your working capital. Your unrestricted net position, which is sort of the water fund equivalent of fund balance, is about $5 million. You produced operating income $432,000 and change in net position or net income of $478,000. And you had $1 million of positive cash flow from the water and sewer fund, and a net increase in overall cash of $441,000. The next slide shows some of the statistics on property tax collections. Of course, over the last 3 years, the tax rate go down due to the revaluation in 22. Your collection percentage has been really good all 3 years, up in the high 99%, 99.96% FY23. So that's literally about as good as it can get. I think that's about all I have. I'm happy to take questions if anybody has any other questions. And again, we appreciate being able to serve as a council auditor.
Do you do any kind of comparative metrics between us and towns our size, or any gut feel you can comment? I mean, I hear a lot of really positive comments every year, and thank you, Tanya, for all the hard work you do. But, you know, it's kind of good to occasionally know, how do you really stack up against other towns in this area?
Yeah, I
Any
think
comments?
just sort of my ad hoc observation is that you guys have always stacked up pretty well. Pretty much all municipalities right now have had their fund balance padded by some, various programs, ARPA funding and that sort of thing the last few years. So everybody's doing pretty good right now, but 121%, as Councilman Nagel pointed out, is pretty strong.
Okay.
I can share, Vice Mayor, that within my colleagues, not just those in Buncombe County, but those in the surrounding areas, the huge those areas with heights, as far as fund balance value. And which makes it big, it's really good for us because we also do have some pretty significant expenses coming up. We've got aging equipment in the fire department, with, those types of things. So that has been intentional. And returning funds back to fund balance at the end of each fiscal year has been intentional. It has not been just haphazardly returning funds.
Or in the current economic environment, also that level of fund balance gives you the flexibility to pay for something rather than always having to borrow money. In an 8 to 10% interest rate environment, that can be a big deal, big savings.
Yeah, and I think, pat ourselves on the back, we as a council, I think, at least since I've been here, have done a pretty good job of working with each other to question in a good way things we're doing, what the value is, and does it make sense? And, I think we've been appropriately cautious, and hope we continue to do that in the future. Great. Well, Travis, thanks a lot for all your help. Okay, so next on the agenda, we are getting into discussion with council and actions were appropriate on these annexations. And the first one is the 492 Reams Creek Road action, and I'll turn this over to Jennifer.
Thank you, Mr. McKenna. So this is one that we haven't talked about this evening. This is we actually had a public hearing on this back in October, and what's before you is this 1 acre piece that's located right next to the larger tract that is known as 480 Reams Creek that was recently or annexed in earlier this year. And so the request is to annex the 1 acre piece to kind of add it to their acreage, more for amenities than anything else. And so what's before you is an annexation ordinance that does bring it into the town's municipal limits and sets an R3 zoning designation for it, which is consistent with the 480 Reeves Creek zoning designation. There is a proposed ordinance beginning at page 243 for your consideration.
So discussion, anybody have thoughts or comments? Somebody like to make a motion on this?
I make a motion to be approved.
I second.
All in favor of approving this motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. All right, so the next item.
Next item is page 246, and it is the annexation and zoning on the Reems Creek Village recombination areas. These are the little bits of property that have been added to several of the lots in the Reems Creek Village subdivision. Again, there is an annexation ordinance proposed for your consideration, which does annex in the lots A, B, C, and E as shown on the map that's on the screen, which is collectively about 2.5 acres, and includes with it an R2 zoning designation.
Any other comments or questions from council? We have a motion on this one.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and that motion is approved. The next one, Jennifer, 300 Hamburg Mountain Road.
Yes, sir. So this was one that you did here tonight, and it's roughly 9.5 acres off of Reems Creek Road that is proposed to be zoned R3, and that we expect to be developed into a 35-lot single-family subdivision. Again, the annexation ordinance is attached for your consideration and does reflect all of the acreage that you see on the screen and an R3 zoning designation.
Comments, council, questions for staff? Okay, do we have a motion on this?
Make the motion to approve.
All in favor to approve, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that motion carries, is approved. Next on Northridge Farms.
All right, I do expect that we'll pause here and we'll be interested in hearing town council's questions on this, but this is the 88 acres located in the Gill Branch Valley, proposed for annexation. The zoning, the annexation map is shown on the screen that you have. There are two actual ordinances for your consideration on this at whatever point you wish to talk about it. The annexation ordinance is relatively simple. It does not carry any zoning designation. What is proposed is a separate conditional district ordinance, like you're used to seeing. I do see Bo Carpenter, who is the attorney for the developer. They're here to answer questions if you have any.
Is the developer here?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Speak to an attorney.
Shall I go ahead? I think I can address some of the concerns that were brought up earlier about this particular project, especially the confusion with respect to the road. And we would strongly encourage you all to vote on this tonight and not continue today's hearing. And I think we have my name is Robert Bo Carpenter, attorney for the developer of Northridge Farms. There's been discussion and some controversy over the one section of the conditional use ordinance that incorporated the special use permit, particularly the language regarding residential access or the right for the residents to exit through Gill Branch Road. When this was originally entitled, there were going to be 8 separate lots on the north side of Gill Branch, and that particular provision in the special use permit was intended to allow egress from those lots to Gill Branch Road, and not all the apartment lots, not all the other lots. And that's not what the special use permit says. Obviously, the special use permit says allows exit for the entire development. Talking to the developer, we're open to a condition that removes that right to egress from the special use permit from the main development. Those 8 lots that were originally meant to be developed are no longer going to be developed. They're not seeking permitting for those anymore. And I'm not sure if it's showing on your screen, but in the revised plans, it's now, that property is now listed as future development. And that's those 8 lots that were originally entitled are no longer there. And so I think the condition, we can do some wordsmithing here on the fly, but I think the condition could be residential exit there from only the lots reserved for future development. That's the lots north of Gill Branch Road. That should satisfy the community concerns about the road. This would allow the town council to leave the road alone as requested. It will prevent from, this change condition will prohibit access from the main thrust of the development and only allow it for these larger acre lots, which is more of a low density residential development. And so I'm hopeful that will satisfy the concerns raised by the citizens tonight and satisfy the concerns the town council has with getting this annexed tonight and not push off to a later date. I will note, echo what Ms. Jackson said, that this has all vested rights, and it's going to come to the town no matter what you decide tonight. But I think the developer has agreed to some pretty good conditions for the town, in addition to what the special use permit allows, particularly with respect to the greenway. And that this final revision to the special use permit as a condition would be the final thing that'll allow the town to vote on the annexation tonight.
I got confused on the roads themselves inside of the development in the last meeting. And I've read this, and maybe I asked Jennifer earlier, maybe I'm missing where it is. Are these, all the roads inside of the development, are they private?
No.
Yes.
Yes, they are. They are private. They are built to DOT standards.
Correct. I heard
But
that.
I believe the intent is for them to remain private and not become public.
Is there so when I was looking, I mean, all roads, I'm not a developer. The developers are smarter than council, like 100-fold combined compared to one developer.
Correct. If
All
I,
roads are private
yes,
to start with.
yes.
I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with Creekside Village, where the developer lied and then blamed the town, and then the people that lived in Creekside thought we were screwing them. So they were told they would be, when they were selling them, they would turn into public roads. The only one that can make them public roads is council. So really don't want a misunderstanding and have 600 angry people when they buy it go, we were told the town's gonna take the roads in. So right as it stands, they're private roads.
As it stands, the private roads, whether at some future date, they might petition for them to be public roads, I don't know.
Sure.
But and Travis, am I correct? They are private roads.
Because I asked this question and I was like a month ago.
And I was here when he asked that question, and I can't remember if I stood up and clarified it or whether Mr. Fowler did, but yeah, they are intended to be private roads, unless I'm mistaken.
No, my land's not for sale, Travis.
Everything's for sale, come on.
Nope.
So I think that the plan, and we're still working our way through some of the details, but certainly the roads that are inside the multifamily segments of the development will be private road systems. We're trying to decide whether the bridges will meet the specs of the city that would allow the Parkway Road that comes down through Northridge Commons to extend. We have potentially plans to extend that further through that would allow more greenway access through the property. We're trying to work out how some of those details would work. It would be best for the city and the residents of the community if the majority of the road system was a public road system, but I'm not sure until we understand exactly how the bridges are approved by the city that can actually happen. I think our engineer at Brooks Engineer and the city, Brooks Engineering and the city are working through those details. It's certainly a public water system and a public sewer system. And then the extension of the right-of-way and the road surface to the city as a public road would be our preference, but we're not through that detail yet.
So there's no, I think Jennifer clarified for me this morning, there's no petition at this point to have them become public roads.
A public street commitment, to my knowledge, has not been submitted to the town.
Okay.
It may
that
be
correct?
forthcoming, but it hasn't been, to
Dale?
my knowledge.
Do you know that? No?
Well, it says here, when I asked this question a month ago or 2 months ago, a combination of private and public streets within the development are expected. That's what we wrote, or somebody wrote under this.
That was me, and that was based on an understanding that was potential. Again, it really depends on if they submit
What page are you on?
it's probably the staff
This is
report.
page 53 from not this month, but another month,
Shit.
last month. And the only reason that I asked the question then is because I was thinking, if it's a gated community and they're all private roads, then I asked the question about whether or not we even had sanitation on a private road subdivision. And then I was told, well, some of them will probably be public roads and they would be built to the Weaverville standard, which means we would need the sanitation to go down in there. I'm happy to hear that there's
Yes.
possibly,
So there is no, it is not a gated community.
there's no-
Right.
I think that's one confusion. The second confusion is there are 2 bridges on the site. One bridge originally per design was below the 100-year flood elevation. We raised that because our concern was that if we're in a flooding situation and there's an EMS need, and for some reason the main entrance through Northridge Commons is blocked, well, now effectively, you're going to have to send a helicopter in for EMS. So we raised that bridge on Gill Branch Road to allow access. That's a gated access, and I think that's where the term gated came into the conversation. But the other issue is that we're not through with the road enhancement conversation through Northridge Commons. Currently, that's a private road. So I believe Dale and John Kennard at Brooks Engineering have been discussing the implications of a private road system connecting to a public road system inside Northridge Commons. So we're working those details out, and to Ms. Jackson's comment, that has not been finalized yet, so that petition has not been made. But I believe that it is forthcoming if we can work out a few of those details.
And that'll come to council and
Right.
new council vote on it, yes or no. Pretty
Yeah.
simple. We just didn't want the same fiasco that happened before we got on council with Creekside.
Well, and to his point, which we had to live with that PR topic with this neighborhood for years, once the dust settles and it's X% private or public or whatever it is, what do you guys do to communicate that to future owners that, just so you know, here's the structure of roads, here's your obligation or not? Because,
I don't really see any reason why we wouldn't have that answered before we start our site development. I mean, that's a primary concern of mine.
Right.
Conveyance of the property to the property owners association. And that'd be a budget item, so that we have to know that before. I don't know what happened in the past. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what those details
It was a
are,
one-off, hopefully.
yeah, but that's not the way we would move forward in, in that process.
Yeah, I mean, we basically told the residents it's between them and who they bought the house from.
Right.
I don't know whatever they promised you, they didn't have jurisdiction to do that. I got one more oddball question. So we talked about the greenway. So Jeff and I are pretty darn excited potentially about doing it with the gun range and having a path for your folks that buy these lots to get to the lake. I think that's super important. I think we made a mistake on the apartments across the street from Lake Louise. There's no way for those people, there's 130 apartments going there, and we already see it today, they're walking across that bridge. We should have negotiated with the developer, and shame on me, to make a footbridge across Reems Creek. And hindsight's 2020, who knows what he would have said. What I said to Jeff this morning is it'd be nice to figure out, not just to the edge of your property, but if the town is willing to turn that into some greenway, which would be, in my opinion, a benefit for those people wanting to rent apartments or live there, that they could actually, without any, automobile traffic, get down there. Tell me if I'm asking for something I'm not allowed to, Jennifer, but is there a way you guys can help fund that?
I don't have any idea where your bridge is, so I would have.
Nothing to do with the bridge. Getting from your place, the back way along Reems Creek. You know what I'm talking about, right?
So there is underneath, there's a water line that runs out to the gun range. And so the city has an easement through that area, and they have a driveway or some sort of access. So that's the path that we have all discussed. And
Correct. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to confuse it with the bridge.
Yes.
I just like to talk.
So I think that's exactly what we're talking about doing. Now, we're willing to put that to our property line.
Right.
And then we don't have, I don't know where the city would propose to run that greenway extension or how it would attach to Lake Louise, but that's certainly the idea here, is to give access to the existing city properties. I mean, that's exactly the point. So I don't know, it's difficult for me unless it's like donating a piece of land or something like that, that I can characterize exactly the value and how that transaction would have. It's difficult for me to say that I can agree to support that, other than to say.
You're going to put it to the edge of your property.
We'll definitely put it in the place that's most beneficial for the city to connect to it.
Okay.
If I may, I think it's important to know that tonight you approved the concept plan for looking at a trail system back there.
Yeah, I was going to see if he'd pay for that $5,000 too.
I got you.
Apparently we have a lot of money.
You just said you did.
I know.
We shouldn't have done this after the auditor's presentation.
After we get the plan, after we get this people from Marshall to come up with this trail, and then we have a plan, and then we vote on the action, then we can start trying to find grants.
Yeah.
But you gotta have all this stuff together before you can look for the grants.
Yeah.
Right, true.
So can I ask the question, how many acres are in the 8 lots that you're not gonna develop right now?
8.8.
8.8. Okay, so with that being said, I like what I heard Mr. Carpenter say about the 8 lots that wouldn't be developed, so therefore you could take out the language of the exit of residents to Gill Branch. So then the main entrance and exit would be through Northridge Commons. When this 8 lots is developed, they probably will come on Gill Branch, maybe. Or is it gonna go through your other development?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the Gill Branch, the rest of the property up to Monticello, Zone 2 for the city's expansion development?
Yes,
plans?
I think so.
Yeah, so I think that the city's already decided that that's a great growth corridor.
Right.
And how that happens in the future, I think it's for the next developer to figure out how we're going to handle. But I don't disagree with Mr. Meeks and the other Mr. Young that spoke. There are certain pieces of land that lend themselves better to higher density development, the proximity to other roadways or other features such as the park that the city has. And there are other pieces of property that border neighbors that don't have great access, that have natural features on wetlands or waterway or something like that, that are just not really appropriate for high density development. So we originally had that land approved with 8 lots on it because that's what you do when you ask for a special use permit. But we didn't really have a true plan for what we were going to do over there. And after hearing everyone else's input and paying attention to what that piece of property actually looks like, it's not really it's not needed for the development. It's not part of the grading process or a sewer outfall or something like that. That's part of the plan.
So let me ask you one more question then. Where this 8 lots or 8 acres, 8.8 acres is located, then you wouldn't be coming in and out there with heavy equipment to do all this other stuff? Probably not.
No, Gill Branch Road is not the type of road you want to take. So just imagine Mr. Butner that lives at the end of the road, has had a farm there forever. He goes down that road. I mean, I grew up in a rural farming community too, so probably has a gooseneck trailer. He puts his tractor on it. He doesn't ever take his tractor really anywhere. He has its services there. But that cul-de-sac or turnaround at the end is large enough or wide enough for him to turn around for agricultural purposes. When I show up with a heavy excavator, it weighs 140,000 pounds and it needs 120 feet to turn around. So there's no reason, everybody's going to say, oh, the developer's going to do whatever he wants to do. Well, I am, and I'm going to do the responsible thing, and that's unload up there in Northridge Commons.
Well, I was going to say, didn't we just say you can't use the road anyways? I mean, it didn't say for construction vehicles, what I heard us say for.
But it was a concern. It was
I'm with you. Can I see the 8 acres you're talking? I'm on the GIS and
Which one?
I've lost myself.
This right here.
Okay.
That's Mr. Butner's house.
Okay.
And this is his, the majority of this was his farm, but this piece of land here is where
That's it.
I believe the chief's property is.
Okay.
So there will be no entrance or exit on Gill Branch from Muncie Road?
If we,
For
if we
residents.
word this, if Jennifer comes up with some nice words and the developer agrees, as he said,
Yep.
yeah, he's suggested it, he has to agree to her
For-
words.
So you're gonna put a gate there?
No,
There,
there won't be anything there.
well, there, once we're done building that area, I mean, just to be clear, we are extending water and sewer across Gill Branch Road, which would be for future, but it's something that the water department's probably gonna require anyway. We are building a bridge there so that EMS can traverse Gill Branch in case it floods, which it's not get that high anyway. But the point is, yes, there will be activity on that side of the road because we have to build a bridge and we have to run water and sewer to that side of Gill Branch Road. So will I drive down there in my construction pickup truck? Will some of my other staff? Well, yeah, sure. But there's not going to be heavy construction activity going down that road.
Right.
I'm not going to put a loaded dump truck down Gill Branch Road or
We're still gonna say access by fire
when
and
completed.
police.
Yeah, when the site's
Emergency.
complete.
But not
Exactly.
residents,
No, no.
I'm sorry?
not residents.
No, sir.
Okay.
No, the only people that were ever intended to use Gill Branch Road for their means of egress or exit, are the people that live on that 8 acres. And so that's what's caused this confusion.
Well, I was just wondering because the language can be there, but if we don't have a gate or some way to keep people from coming in that way,
It is
it's gonna be
gated.
used.
It is gated, and that's what caused that confusion, but that is only for EMS. So you pull up to it, you have a squelch function on your
Yeah,
fire truck,
okay.
and that opens that
Okay.
gate. And that's for exit also. So if you pull up to it, if you want to go out Monticello Road, you can't get out without that fire truck or EMS horn.
I was just wanting to make sure the people that had spoke with our public hearing, that just met their concerns.
It
Yeah.
has. Yeah.
Yeah, we actually spoke about it last Tuesday, and I was a bit confused myself, so that's, it took us a while to understand why everyone was confused, because we wrote the language, it didn't seem confusing to us, but after hearing everyone else talk, we understood what caused it.
Okay.
Wonderful.
So
Good.
that 8.8 acres is still a plan for future development. So when you do something with those 8.8 acres, then what will the access be?
Gill Branch Road,
And it's already on Gill Branch Road.
correct.
That's the difference.
Right.
There's houses there, and it's actually part of the same lot. That's why I was struggling. Now that I'm on the GIS, you look like a little bit of Michigan with a thumb or something. So it's part of the lot.
It's the Upper Peninsula, that's right.
Upper Peninsula, it's the Cooper.
Yeah.
So the original language didn't say for these residents, it said for residents, and that's where the confusion
I mean,
started.
they have access to Gill Branch Road because how many feet, I don't feel like measuring, how many frontage feet is it
A
about?
few hundred feet.
Yeah, I think it was-
Frontage on Gill Branch Road.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Butner has a Gill Branch Road address. So
Correct.
this would be logical for it to have a Gill Branch Road address.
That's
It'll go ahead and have water, it'll go ahead and have sewer, and it will be future development with a conditional zoning if we go ahead and annex with a conditional zoning. It'll go ahead and have conditional zoning, right?
If we agree that conditional is the appropriate zone,
That's what I'm saying, if we agree to that.
which we did a straw vote last week. and we
Yeah,
all-
we put it up for it.
That's their preference. Correct.
So if I could circle back on a couple of things. One is back to the public street commitment process. It does require an application that comes in, but that does, when y'all revamped the way that public street commitments worked, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, a developer is required to get that up front. And so what I anticipate, and I think what I heard Mr. Fowler say, is that there is plenty of time to have that come in, have you review it, the Public Works Department review it, you make a decision before any plats get recorded. So when the plats get recorded, off of which lots will be sold, the plat will correctly state whether those roads are private or public. There will be that decision up front. And the important part is that you need to know as a developer that town council will not accept a public street, a new public street that has not been approved without a commitment first of all. And if they grant that commitment, you've got to be in communication with the Public Works Director so that the roads can be inspected at various states to ensure that they are built to the town standards, which are a little bit different than DOT.
Yes, ma'am.
We were trying to treat it like a water commitment.
Yeah.
Because it typically was coming in after the fact. And then it was a mess, so.
Yeah, that's a little unusual process, but I guess it's just something, it's unusual from my perspective, having worked in other, but it's the detail that we want. Yeah, yeah. You're right, in different towns, right?
So you want to?
I do have a question, but you can finish.
So the language, what I would anticipate, and we can work, I think we can get it really pretty close. You've got your conditional district that sets out the exact language out of the special use permit, but we can put a note, see paragraph 9, and in that paragraph 9, amend it. And what I would anticipate that amendment being is that we continue to allow the emergency vehicle access. If you're amenable to allowing the sanitation services and public utility maintenance, all of this after construction is completed. And then allow residential use related to the 8.8 acres lying north of Gill Branch Road and labeled as future development, and that is to be exit only, and not for any of the dwelling units that are shown on the current master plans. So I think we can limit it.
Can I hear more of why the town needs to use it? Can I hear more of why the town needs to use it versus going through the DOT approved Northridge Commons Superhighway Parkway that 4,500 is not going to be a problem? Why do we want to use it? Why don't we just say no? Just no emergency vehicles only? What?
There's a technical reason, it's in the fire safety, it's appendix.
Yeah, but I mean, the garbage truck, I'm asking really, Dale, why does our garbage trucks need to use that Gill Branch Road? Why don't they come through? It's for them to ask. Because that's what I heard you asking, right? Town.
Yeah, I think what Dale's going to say is we don't have to.
Good. You don't have to say any more, Dale. Thank you. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
If that's the will of council, we can absolutely strip that out. That was an ask. It's totally fine to strip that out, and we can keep just the emergency access, entrance and exit. I will say that the fire code is going to require that Gill Branch Road be used for a mass exodus if there is a public emergency.
Sure.
So,
run over the gate, don't worry about your clicker, and get out of town.
yeah.
John has a question.
Yes.
And you may have answered it there, but mine is a little bit more. So we've got the county special use, we've got all these criteria, and then we have Weaverville's conditional zoning, which we're tacking on some things like the greenway, which I think is great. But now we're taking out resident exit. Are we allowed to monkey with this special use? I mean, I'm not saying that I want them to use it, but I can see that we can tack on things that we want to do in Weaverville that are like above and beyond this, but to actually start changing the language in that, is that something we can do?
You're creating a brand new conditional district. And so I do think that you are allowed to do that. We've had public hearings on this. What you're essentially doing is you're substituting the vested right that they're coming to you with under the special use permit. You're kind of substituting that with this new conditional district. As far as that particular provision is concerned, I'm thinking about it from the standpoint of who was that provision protecting? And it was put in there as, I believe, It was put in there to address the public, the neighborhood's request for limited access on Gill Branch Road. And in this particular situation, we're actually protecting them more.
Yeah, it's more restrictive.
It's more restrictive, and so I think that's, there's not really an issue.
And he recommended it.
Yeah, you're,
Well,
I don't
I
think that
think
if
it's,
we would have recommended it.
well,
it's not a-
I mean, I like where we're going with it. I just want to make sure that if we're doing text amendments to what Buncombe County's produced.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, correct me when I'm wrong, Jennifer, he could have just come to the town with conditional zoning request and copied verbatim probably everything and negotiated those 3 points versus claiming vested rights. Basically, in the card game poker of developer in town, he goes, county's already approved it.
Yeah.
So I'll buy my water from Woodfin and I'll stay in the county. But there's been, I think, good conversation to go, let's do what's right. So.
All right. Thank you.
Sounds good.
so earlier, there was some feeling that, there were a lot of unresolved questions, and we might need to not do it tonight. Have we kind of gotten past to those in your guys' minds?
I have.
I have too, but.
Yeah.
I have one thing. I don't know if we'd be out of order or not, but since we have clarifications on some of the points, I wonder if it'd be possible, does the residents that have spoken before, is it clear to them what we're talking about? Or is there any questions that you have pertaining to this, since he's elaborated on it so much?
Ma'am, sorry, we've got to have you on recording.
For most of us, and we all know each other on our street, we've all lived there a long time. We know every neighbor from top to bottom, except the new condos that are coming in, and we're meeting them. We, all along, since the development was approved, we expected the 8 lots to be developed into the street. That was no surprise. We were thrilled that it was going to be not worse than it was. 8 lots was fine. And we expected the emergency vehicles to come on their road. We understand that. We understand that. It makes sense to us. We know why you would want a second option for emergency vehicles. We were fine with all of that. So the new latest thing that brought up, we were going to have a one-way exit for all the rest of the development. That's what was so overwhelming. So I think, if I understand right, wording gets kind of confused, and my neighbors can all come up here too. That's what we expected all along. We know that this is going to change all around us, but we could live with the emergency vehicles, and we could live with 8 or 9 lots, people coming in and out. That's what we thought. So I think we're back to where we thought we were going to be all along. Am I right? Am I wrong?
Please, anyone that speaks, please come up to the.
My question is to the developer. On the 8 lots that are future, do you have any idea what those would be? What would be on those 8 lots?
I mean, it'll be conditional district. So-
Please.
Yeah.
So trying to answer that question and sound like I know what I'm talking about, and I just conferred with my attorney for the last time, they have to come back to us. They just can't do anything they want. It's that 8 acres above Gill Branch. When they're ready, if they ever want a development, as you just said, maybe never, they'll have to come back to council, whoever's on council at that time. So is the developer, I guess somebody should have sent me a memo this morning, and I would have probably never said what I said about Patrick not being here. I heard him fill your needs. You asked not to have it as an entrance or as an exit, and they stood up and said, "We're listening to you," and yeah.
Well, and when we drafted it, we honestly did think it was ambiguous, and so that's why we haven't already spoken with Ms. Jackson about, if we realized it was going to be such a topic, we wouldn't have caused you to spend so much time discussing this. We would have brought it up earlier, but we didn't realize it was ambiguous as it is obviously now, so that's why we're clarifying that.
It's a good learning moment for the future, right?
Yeah.
We never quit learning.
Well, what's in a word? I mean, if you tied the language to these 8 properties, then there would have been no discussion, but.
Well, the focus was on the 568 that was across
Right.
the branch. That was more the focus.
Right.
You gotta go to the podium though. Thank you.
Yeah, and to Councilman Jackson's question, yes, sir, I think we understand that you have given us what we've asked for. You have listened and gone above beyond, so we thank you, thank you, thank you.
You know what the beautiful thing about that is too? You can't vote for us.
We know,
Of our good hearts.
we understand, we.
We don't want taxes from you.
No taxation without representation. I'll try to tax us.
Fortunately, the state fixed that, so you're not in my boat. Well, heck, I'd like to make a motion then, if you can figure out how to say it.
There's different amendments, conditions, different conditions.
So I think that where we are is the conditional district ordinance that you have in front of you. There are a couple of amendments that I would make to that. On page 262, under paragraphs 2A, we're going to add a but C paragraph 9. So we're going to, oh, I'm sorry.
Good? No, sorry. Positive? Super positive?
And then paragraph 9 is where we talk specifically about Hill Branch Road, and it says notwithstanding paragraph 2A above, essentially, it's going to say that the use of the Gill Branch Road access point is limited to emergency vehicles only. And that residential use is limited to entrance and exit by the, for the future development on the 8.8 acres lying north of Gill Branch Road and labeled as future development, and not for the residential use of the dwelling units shown on the master plans dated July 13th, 2023. I can clean up the language on that a little bit in consultation with the developer's attorney, but that's the essence of it, is emergency vehicles, and the residential use is limited to the 8.8 acres that we've been talking about.
That sounds much better.
So everybody,
So that's an to adopt the
Yeah.
annexation ordinance as presented and the conditional district ordinance as we just discussed with those amendments.
all right, so I have that from you, Andrew?
Yeah, you have a motion on the table?
Okay, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We've
Any
passed.
opposed?
Right.
No nays. So congratulations. Thanks for everybody in the room. Really appreciate all the interaction and involvement, and the developer, all the patience, and, it's a partnership, so we're very excited about it.
Where's the mayor?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so on to the last annexation petition for, I think, tonight. Jennifer Maple Trace?
Yes, sir. Let me get there. So we're not really asking for any action on this one tonight, but we did want to circle back to you and provide you a little bit of a staff report. We were kind of on the clock to do that. You do have a pretty comprehensive staff report in your packet, but this is on the Maple Trace subdivision annexation petition, which is a large one in that it involves 134 lots and 8 common areas. It's essentially the entirety of this subdivision. The subdivision, interestingly, they have water service through the town of Weaverville, have from the beginning. And the reason, it's my understanding that the reason that this property was not annexed in at the time of that water request is because at the time there was a one-lane bridge over Reeves Creek. And staff felt like that was just not something we wanted to own. DOT, if you've been out that way, DOT has just finished up in the last 6 months a 2-lane bridge replacement project. So now there is a state-maintained 2-lane bridge that provides access into this project. This is a non-contiguous or satellite annexation request. Closest point is about 650 feet away from the town's primary municipal limits. The construction of all the single-family homes that were contemplated have, I believe, been completed. It looks like that from the tax values.
Where are we at on just get to the gist. Where are we at on the road?
So the roads. So again, the primary purpose of this annexation, I think, was to have the town annex in and take over the private roads out there to be town roads. Mr. Pennell has provided them with a set of essentially a testing schedule to really give you an assessment of the condition of those roads before you make any decisions on this. David King is here tonight. I will say that the testing schedule included 67 core drillings, some fairly shallow, meaning 12 inches, some one at least a great deal deeper than that. But they have there was some sticker shock on the engineering quotes on conducting all the testing. And I'm going to let Mr. King address that a little bit. I think he's actually got a good plan where he will have the engineering company, the geotech engineering company, come out and do what I will call test the waters type work, where they're going to spend a day or two and get done as much as they can, and then pause and let's see what those results are, which before doing the whole $20,000.
So I guess the question is, if they don't pass Dale's testing, do they still want to be annexed? I mean, are we annexing them going, you're annexed? Great. Thank you. You start paying more taxes and we'll see if the roads join.
So the annexation petition is a voluntary annexation petition, and they did very clearly state on that petition that the primary purpose was to get the town to take over its roads. I think that if the roads are not going to be taken over, I think the petition starts falling apart and you stop having 100% of your property owners in there wanting to join this petition.
So what are we voting on? A big if statement?
You're not voting on anything today.
You already said that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So what you're doing is you're kind of hearing the status update, and one of the recommendations, I think staff would recommend that public hearings not be set until we have a better picture of those roads. But certainly if the roads don't, if you want to proceed on without that information, the next step in the annexation process is the setting of those public hearings. The clerk has investigated the sufficiency and certified it, so it's ready to go forward, but we're still waiting on, I think, reasonably waiting on the results of some testing, street testing.
Mr. Vice Mayor, Council, thank you for letting me speak.
You could state your name.
David King, 192 Waterleaf Drive, Maple Trace. I have been the primary contact with the town for Maple Trace and working. I would like to say this, having myself been in local government, I'd like to say your staff is excellent. They are stellar. They provide service that you should be proud of. And anyway, yes, when we got the mapping recently, it was a bit of a sticker shock. We were expecting something a bit lower. I'm spending not my money, but the homeowner's money. So the engineering firm that we're working with suggested, why don't we propose, let's come out and spend a day out there. Cost you a couple $1,000s to come out, get a snapshot of the entire community, and present that to town council and Dale for a preliminary survey of what it looks like. I think what I'm trying to avoid is having to go back to homeowners and say, I spent $20,000 plus and we failed. We failed, yes. So, I have a fiduciary responsibility to the homeowners that I have to at least honor as well. And we're following, we're willing to do this. We're just trying to get something that will, when presented to the community, will be more acceptable. And they'll feel like we did a preliminary before we spent that much money. Because, what I've got right now is a $20,000 estimate. It may very well exceed that. And if we have an idea that we are going to possibly pass, then there's no problem spending the rest of the money. And in addition to that, we need to do, according to this, have a video scoping of our drainage system, our stormwater system. So that's going to run us probably $15,000 or so, which we're willing to do. So I think we're not even at an impasse. We're just trying to work out this, how we move forward with this.
How many folks live there? How many homes? Not folks, how many homes?
134.
So it's $155 a home for the 20 grand. Mm-hmm. Don't be cheap.
I mean, we're willing to spend
it. He's going to want your test, right? You're going to do a snapshot so you can go, let's not waste any more money. But he's still going to require the whole enchilada.
Well, I'd like his comment on the snapshot.
Sure.
That's what I'm looking for.
And I'm just being a smartass, but I keep bringing up Creekside Village. They passed, right? When they got sticker shock too, and they finally left us.
Well, we're not looking to pass. We're just looking to be able to justify that expense to the homeowners.
I got you.
I mean, I think it was a great solution.
Absolutely.
In that it allows an expenditure of a couple $1,000s to see if you are going to have a quick, no, these roads are in terrible condition. There's no way that we can take those in without spending the full $20,000 to get to that result.
Yeah. And it wasn't, I didn't come up with it. An engineer came up with, someone smarter than me came up with the idea.
It was a good idea.
Well, Dale's consulting fee goes up if you have multiple meetings, so you know.
Yeah, I hope this consulting fee's on your dime.
It should be. We got plenty of money.
So I would expect that Maple Trace will just keep us posted on how they're progressing, and then we'll report back just as soon as we have any information and some decisions are made on their end.
Okay, if what we've talked about is agreeable, I've already talked to the engineering firm today and told them I would be here tonight, and I would have them some answer tomorrow as whether to move forward or not.
I mean, it sounds good to me. I'm looking at Mr. Pennell to see if he's comfortable. Again, I think what Mr. Pennell will say is that he is not amending his testing schedule, but he understands that y'all are going to take a snapshot of all of the roads, 1 day's worth, and then reevaluate before proceeding.
He will take that map and do the entire, a snapshot of the entire neighborhood to present to Dale. And then if it looks good or it's, we're in the ballpark, then we'll go ahead and do the rest of it. One thing he did ask is that we get to him the town of Weaverville's requirements for road construction.
If you'd like to.
Monday Night Football starts in 5 minutes, folks.
Good evening. I think what I'm hearing is they want to spend a little bit of money to see if they need to spend a lot more money.
Yep.
So the question is, the pavement is supposed to be 2 inches thick and the stone base under it is supposed to be 8 inches thick. So if they do say 10 of the 67 I've laid out, and that comes in and 8 of them are deficient in depth, then that's an indication of probably what the rest of the roads are. If it comes back and 9 of them pass, then again, that's an indication that they're probably in pretty good shape. But the bottom line is, the way I've laid out these 67 cores around the entire 1.4 miles is to make sure, to protect the town, that we know what the condition of those streets are. And we know in the areas where they had to put in a lot of fill to bring the roads up to the level, that we know that that material was compacted properly and there are no stumps or organic material or anything that will cause us a future issue that we have to repair there. And the reason that all this is important to us is that when you go into the Maple Trace development, about the first 1,200 feet of the road was the road that every single vehicle going in and out of that development, since the first pickup and loader and backhoe and all them, the residents, everybody has to drive on that section of road. And it already is cracking, and it's already had some areas that have been patched and are cracking again. And my whole purpose in what I'm doing is to protect the interest of the town and not give me a road that we have to look at paving after 12 years of service instead of the roads that we're starting to pave on the new program that we expect to get 20 years plus out of.
I mean, Andrew's point, it sounds almost like it's an internal issue for y'all because you want to go spend $2 or $3 grand to tell people what they're probably going to hear anyway, is what I'm hearing after you spend the 20 grand or whatever the number is. But Dale he's not going to behave any differently, based on this small sample size, looks good, but doesn't really matter.
It'll be Mr. King's group's decision once we get those initial test results. We'll be able to talk with him and his group to say, looks okay or doesn't look so good. And then they can decide how they want to proceed.
I forget the number, and I don't remember whether you use feet or miles. How much does it cost when we do a road project?
Pre-COVID, it was about $500,000 per mile.
Okay, there
to
you go.
resurface the road. Our latest paving program is about $600,000 per mile.
And how many miles are in Maple Trace?
1.4 times 600 is
There's $1
$900,000.
million.
If we said, let's take them over.
Right.
And now let's pave them all.
Right.
That's-
And if you had to turn around and pave them,
If-
what's the
if-
tax value on Maple Trace? And what's the ROI on
I think
that
we've
million?
got.
It's about $153,000 annually based on
6 years.
Right, if you had to.
based on
But
current
that's
current
just
rate.
like- Yeah, I mean, they're gonna
Right.
get garbage pickup.
No, I understand that.
Those are the things
I'm with you.
Yeah,
You can't use it all for that. I was just trying to cause trouble.
Yeah, 153,000. Okay.
All right,
Thank you, Dale.
Thank you for letting
you.
me speak to it.
Thank you, Mr. King.
all right, home stretch here. So the next topic is a planner code enforcement officer position description by a town manager.
I can make this really quick by just pointing to the last 34 pages of your agenda and the last over an hour, and the actions that you've taken. We are at the point, I had planned on requesting in the upcoming budget, which we're already planning for, the 425 budget to request another full-time position in planning. And the agenda was laid out strategically to point to the fact that we need that position now. We are in the position where we've got all of these developments that we've talked about tonight, in addition to the long-range planning that we're going to need to do with the comprehensive plan. I've heard some of you talk about doing some urban planning projects, some greenways projects, a number of things, and we simply need another person to assist James in his work. And so what I am asking that you do is approve the budget amendment here. And we've just given you a short job ad that we're working on the full description, but I'm asking you to approve $35,300. That's for half of year wages and benefits for a position. And so I apologize, but there was no way I could foresee all of these annexations coming in during the development of the budget, or else I would have asked for it in our budget that we just approved in July, to begin in July.
Questions? Thoughts?
I have a thought. It seems like maybe we need two positions. Maybe we need somebody just code enforcement position, and then we need a separate planner position. And
You're talking about 2 additional positions, or?
no, it would be one planner position and one code enforcement position, not a combination of the two for one person, is my thought.
So this person would be the primary code enforcement person. So it would take, that's our plan right now, it would take the code enforcement, the majority of the code enforcement off of James and open him up to the other things. I mean, obviously, we'll take whatever town council wants to approve. I don't know that I'm ready yet to plan that position out.
So the person would report to James?
Yes.
Well, I very much appreciate that. I am typically involved in most of the code enforcement stuff. And I'm not sure that at this point, I'm not sure that there is enough to keep one code enforcement person busy full-time. We may get there in the next few years, but I don't know that that's right now.
But if you look at your comprehensive land use plan and you look at the priorities that you and planning board have set, there are a number of projects that are coming up in the next few years that we're going to need more resources to address. And Mr. Chase, I have no problem with coming back with the next budget and recommending another position. But I don't know that we're ready to plan that out now. And
Well, he's not suggesting another position. He was saying, correct me if I understood you.
I was hearing two people.
You're talking 2 people plus James, total of 3?
Yeah.
I misunderstood you.
Yeah, I mean, the way this is written, it just seems like it's heavy on the code enforcement, not so much on the planning. I kind of feel like a long-term planner would be really beneficial to the town, and maybe that's not the position we fill at the moment. Maybe the code enforcement is a more pressing, but we get both kind of in the queue, essentially.
So I'm kind of thinking that I'm in favor of what John is saying. Most of us are hearing and feeling as if we need long-term planning, urban planning, something like that. And I understand that there's a lot going on, but if it were me, I would say we table this until we have the January strategic planning thing and we can talk this out. Or we talk in closed session about personnel things that you don't want to talk about in this room. But I just think I'm ready for this.
Yeah, the challenge I got, and this is a really good description, but honestly, what's missing to me is what does James then do to complement this or manage this? I don't see that side of it, because honestly, I could submit, or I could replace James's name in here, and it's a lot of stuff you're doing now. So presumably this would free you up to be more strategic and long-range planning, but I'm not seeing that laid out. It's just kind of like if I'm busy, I can shut this off to this person. I know that's not what you have in mind. but
No.
I'd want to see kind of the whole department, if you will. What does that look like with two people, not just this new person?
Yeah, and I totally get, I totally get that and I agree. But I think right now we are at a tipping point. We need the help with just the projects that we've covered tonight. We need the help and we need the.
Projects then.
We need.
Stop approving so much, council.
We need we need that in order to make these things happen and be efficient with them. And, if we wait, my concern is if we wait until a strategic plan, that's pushing us out, and it's going to take us a while to find somebody. We're looking at, we're still looking for employees in water treatment plant, in the fire department. We literally are taking months to find employees.
Well, one of the things that we've seen as council is you add a position and we say it's $70,000, it's really like 120 or 30 because of all the benefits and the vacation and the 401k and yada, yada that gets added to it. And then we're not gonna have this kind of growth forever. We've just kind of got this growth right now. And so I don't know how long. I know one of the things we talked about is the permitting process and, a lot of things like that and title searches, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm not even sure what all goes into code enforcement. But maybe we have a contract person that comes in right now to help you. And then we, at strategic planning, we start saying, do we as a council prefer that you look for somebody who's more long range in scope? This is not what most of us was thinking when we did our analysis over the last 3 to 6 months about planning. And
I'm sorry, I was not aware that you had an analysis done.
Well, how am I going to say this?
Let me say this, as your town manager, as the one that you have appointed to oversee the administration of your departments, not to set policy, because that's you all. It is my obligation to recommend to you what it is that we need. I don't think we can wait unless we want to decrease in some efficiencies. And I'm happy to have James come to the podium and speak to you, to speak to it from his standpoint. But I don't think we can wait to make a determination as to how a larger department looks. What I can tell you right now is that James is tasked with projects that are the equivalent and the number of departments all around us who have 3, 4, 5 planners. We have 1.
Is there deadlines? Maybe James does need to come. I don't feel like this is justified just from this letter. So if you feel like James could do a better job of justifying it, I'd be glad to listen.
I'm your town manager.
Then you should be able to justify it.
I can't, I believe that I have justified it in that you've got a number of annexations and it is going to take work on his behalf. We just.
Somebody just said was a little concerning to me where, paraphrasing here, where you don't know, you consider and describe how the whole department would work. You just know you need more help. I would think you'd always want to have a vision of how the whole department will work.
Absolutely. I'm absolutely, I don't feel like I'm getting my point across well to you. I am tasked with looking at us from a standpoint of long-term. Okay, I was hoping to be able to do this in February, March, April, May, when we start our new budget process. But I simply don't think we can hold out without completely burning James out.
So you're going to
And
work
this
on
is
a
a
couple of weeks. What about if this was expanded to say, all right, here's what the whole department would look like in terms of responsibility, backup responsibility? That's kind of what I'm referring to, like, how's this free up James? Or are these two people then doing a duplicate of each other? And if it's a duplicate, Is that where you want to be? I don't know. I have a lot more questions than you have.
I wish
answers.
you would ask me those before
Well,
tonight. I
just
truly
saw
do.
it,
But,
so.
You had the agenda on Thursday.
I know.
Flying blind here, I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have, with the understanding that I will generally default to Ms. Coffey's position on the issue. That being said, I'm happy to address anything that I can.
I understand that we have the need for, am I still on? That we have the need for some help for you because there is a lot going on and this is a very technical position. I'm wondering if at some point in the future, at our next budget talks or sometime, we could talk about possibly adding an urban designer, and by urban planner, urban designer, I'm thinking of somebody who designs towns, streets, green spaces, just makes the town look a certain way, but it's not this technical stuff. And I totally get that we need this person now with all the stuff we've got going on, at least at this exact moment. But is there an option for us, and is there anybody else who's at all interested in having more of an urban designer who would design the way the town looks beyond all the statistical stuff that you do?
Well, we went down similar road with the Unified Development Ordinance, and that went over like a lead balloon. That was some years ago.
But there wasn't anything wrong with what, it went over with like a lead balloon with the people in town who didn't want change. But the things that it was trying to do is still the things that we hear all the time. Now we know that we have 5 growth areas. And instead of fighting fires all the time, which is James has to do, people come in here, it's a fire. It's 30 or it's 500, it's a fire. We're all looking and listening to people say, why does Weaverville not have a planner that looks long-term and not somebody who's working on just the fighting of the daily fire, but who's looking at what happens in all these 5 different zones and how do we build around them instead of a developer coming in and building a city that is right in the middle of our city and that kind of thing.
Oh, tight wads. We got plenty of money. I mean, we got $9 million in our savings account. James has needed help for 2 years.
No, no, I agree with you. And let me ask you this scenario. So next month, a medium-sized project comes in. They want to annex in, it's out Reems Creek, whatever, make what up. And let's say you have this person on board and they're up to speed. How do you handle that now that you got a second in command? Who's handling what in the discussions and the implementation of all that?
I would say, given the totality of the circumstances, given the loss of the ETJ, the water allocations, the annexations, the initial zonings, that's still going to be handled at department head level. If I could generally answer the questions as best I can until I have the opportunity to be shot down, there is a desire for your current staff to do these bigger picture projects. There is a desire of your current staff to do this long range planning. Given the volume of work that we have, that opportunity does not exist. As Councilmember Cordell, we do nothing but put out fires without forecasting or making long range efforts toward anything. The volume of work that we've had for years now will not allow for those other activities to take place.
Well, and that's why I said maybe we need to talk about it in closed session, is because for a desire to be opened up, I haven't heard the words that there is a desire from somebody within our staff. So
But
that's
James,
good information.
Thank you. Excuse me. So you keep going on what you just said. This person's on board, new project comes in. You need help, but you're saying, you're still going to be the guy for all these initial activities. So how does that help you in the short term? Or am I missing something?
I would say even at permit issuance level, we've been at record highs every single year. Those are some items that town council doesn't see. Town council may not necessarily hear some of these desires because I report to town manager Coffey, and I don't want to make things awkward, but I report to her directly.
When did you start working for the town?
January 2016.
How many cops did we have in 2016? How many got now?
16.
Okay. We can't break them up. I'm trying to correlate growth,
More
right?
in January.
Yeah, I'm trying to correlate growth, because I've seen, obviously we sit here and approve things, then we also change the rules that we don't approve a lot of things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he brings us statistics on how many he's deal with, and Jeff and I had a long conversation about conditional zoning. I think the failure of this council, me included, was we didn't make the bigger projects conditional zoning on every one of them. Well, that's going to require more staff effort, right? If we said anything over, five units should be conditional zoning, so we can have a say in those sort of things. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't disagree with the need, and James and I talked about this too. But I'm kind of looking at it like, how can we scale this department? Let's just add to it. How can it be like 1 + 1 = 3 rather than 1 + 1 = 1.5 for a while, and then maybe 2? That's why I asked that question day one. How would you handle a new thing? Trying to protect you and make you more available to bigger picture stuff.
If I could add, I work pretty closely with James, and have since, 2016. And I have, again, I think we've all seen the uptick in the number of permits. You get that reported to you. There's also been an increase in complexity of projects that may not necessarily translate to the quantity, but the complexity has increased on several of these projects. I have, in sort of private conversations, I have heard and seen a frustration about not being able to get to those bigger picture items, because he's out picking up signs or issuing permits or taking his measuring, literally going out to measure things, that I think he intends, again, correct me if I'm wrong, he intends to let a new hire do some of those more basic things like Mr. McKenna suggested, that will free up some time in his day to vision a little.
Selena, is there any reason not to push this to the workshop in 2 weeks? You're buying 2 weeks then Jeff and I don't have to worry about it, and 2 new guys can.
It's a pretty full, it's the organizational
Right,
meeting,
so
it's
you
pretty
carve
full.
we can sit here for another half hour, but, can you,
Well, that's what I was.
It's really the four of you.
Yeah, I was gonna.
I'll do what I never do. I'll vote whatever way you guys want.
I think Selena has identified, or staff has identified a need. I would agree with that need, and I would just like to add that we should consider a long-term city town planner at some point as a hire.
Yeah, so it makes sense now that, we've talked through it. But you've said the perfect thing of how does 1 + 1 = 1.5 and = 3 at the same time? And what John's saying, ultimately, we may want to get to a goal where there is 3. And it sounds like there's a desire, and we know there's a need, and there's a desire. So I understand better now.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody will make a motion.
I make a motion, we move forward.
As requested.
As requested.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Thank you.
All against, say nay. No nays. So we're moving ahead.
Can we skip the police chief?
He sat here the whole time not wanting to. We need to hear him.
Well, I'm the fire chief.
I would worry more about this taser than the gun.
Yeah.
It's the Cliff Notes version.
Good evening, Vice Mayor and Council. Just to see if I can sum this up as quickly as I can in the interest of time. This quarterly report, you'll see that there were 1,562 calls for service versus 2,046 at the same time this quarter last year. However, having said that, we're still up about on pace to be up 6% this year. So I always beg people, don't get caught up in numbers that are in a short span of time. 90 days just really isn't enough to show a long-term trend. I'll say the same thing about arrests. There, as you can see, there's 11 versus 19 last year, and the motor vehicle collisions were 59 and 7 injuries versus 54 and 8 injuries. And on the next slide, you'll see the number that we have for the police activity reports. These are the number of incidents that we've had and what categories that they are in, and the different types of crimes that were reported. Again, this is all on track, as it were, about this time last year. Now, the next slide, it gets a little bit more, I don't want to bore people to tears here, but I get asked this question quite regularly. So what are our trends? What are our trends? What are we seeing? To put it, and see if I can categorize this, there's different crimes that the National Incident-Based Reporting System, or NIBRS, that's managed by the North Carolina Criminal Investigations Division, or the NCSBI. So we have certain crimes that are reported. This is done nationally, so you can compare Weaverville, North Carolina to Weaverville, California. You can compare these numbers to see about like.
Is there a Weaverville, California?
Yes, yes, there is. We get phone numbers, and that's the Trinity County Sheriff's Office.
And my packages go there.
Right, we get calls like this all the time.
People fuss at us about our July 4th
Yeah.
all the time.
We do. And
And I said,
abandoned.
we didn't have it. Yes, you did. No, we did.
But yes, there is. Quick Google search will find it, Trinity County Sheriff's Office. But nonetheless, so these numbers are reported every month to the State Bureau of Investigation. They verify these numbers, and at every month, the latest statistical data that we have is September of 23. So I don't have any numbers for a full year, needless to say, for this year. So when you compare us to 2022 for the nonviolent crimes, there was 102 for 2022. And there was, for 2023, there's 81. So when you look at those numbers and you compare them, that actually is, I know Asheville, they were touting a 15% decrease in crime. I think Buncombe County was 18%. Ours shows 19.8%. But again, our numbers are small. And so I caution people, like, we had one violent crime last year, we have one violent crime this year. If we go up one, we're up 100%. So that's why I caution people against using these numbers, because I don't see a sustained trend one way or the other. The next 2 pages explain, those are the categories I was saying that are reported, because there's other crimes that aren't reported, credit card fraud, vandalisms, things like that, they are not reported. These are the categories that you can look and search for nationally in that NIBRS system. Same with on 23, so let's go to the next slide in response times.
Hey, Ron, can I ask you one thing on incidents that Ms. Cheeks had spoke earlier? I forwarded you an email she sent all of us, and in it she had referenced some things that she said had happened in the area up there, like I think 3 robberies at Walmart where they'd run across through, told them stay in your house, and a number of other things. And we don't have to go into detail now, but I'd be interested to know if those were valid or really happened, or if there's special concern in that area.
Oh, I'm sure they really have.
I've asked it, I read that email, I've asked our longest tenured officers about this very same thing. Bear in mind, people, their terminology of robbery is way different than somebody stealing, I don't know, a pack of gum and then leaving a store.
Right.
People will say robbery. Could an officer have been in that area, canvassing an area, to look for somebody who potentially had stolen something from one of the places at North Ridge Commons? The answer to that is yes. Typically found that people don't run that way. They run towards more towards the interstate. They run more towards 2570. when they do, but there is a potential of that happening. I am not familiar with any single incident that did happen. Okay. Response times, again, with our response time, the one that I'm concerned about the most is our average priority response time. The terminology, if I can use Ms. Jackson's terminology just now, complexity versus quantity. This is kind of manifesting itself right here. Our times are going up. The complexity of our calls are becoming more intricate. They're requiring more man hours, and that displays in the amount of time that it takes an officer on any given call. That translates into the amount of available time that officers have on the street. Let's see, and on the next page, we have some other updates. As you might know, we applied for a grant with the North Carolina League of Municipalities for $5,000 to help offset the barricades used at special events. And we are also seeking grants into the Small and Rural and Tribal Grant Fund. And all of this, North Carolina Governor's Crime Commission, Bureau of Justice, and Governor Highway Safety, those are all federally funded grants. They're from year to year. So we don't know what they, like the Year of the Trail, let's say, for an example. Same thing applies with this federal funding that we can get. The issue is Washington is a little disjointed right now. I guess it'd probably be the best parts of all of these grants, with the exception of the League of Municipalities. It's been essentially, we've got a big handout, and they've said, come back to us, get back to us on most of all these funding opportunities. And also on the other updates, as you know, that we've had about 18 special events requiring additional manpower to date as of today. I went through that kind of quick. I don't know if anybody has any questions. Happy to answer them. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Good evening. I'll make mine fairly quick so Mr. Nagel can catch at least the second half of the football game. But first off, I appreciate, Mr. Vice Mayor, Mr. Nagel, the support that I've received during my year here with y'all on council. Now that you will be leaving us and have a different voice, but I do appreciate all the support from council, but especially with you leaving tonight. I appreciate the support that I've received this past year.
Thank you.
Our call volume wise, we've responded to 209 calls within the town limits, 247 in our North Buncombe district, and then 60 mutual aid calls, so totaling 516 calls total for this quarter. Of that 516, just over 22% were overlapping calls, meaning while we're on a call, we get dispatched to another call. So as we talk about growth, those things are definitely occurring, and those overlapping calls are occurring. So 115 overlapping calls of that percentage. Our response times currently are just over 6 minutes during this quarter from time of dispatch to arrival on the scene. So, with our fire prevention public education aspects, during this quarter, we've reached approximately 1,200 students and kids throughout the region, everything ranging from a bike rodeo to having lunch at the school to doing some child safety displays at the school. We've 25 car seat installations or safety checks, and performed 51 building occupancy inspections during this quarter. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it. Okay, so with that, we're done with the main agenda. We've got a closed session scheduled.
So a motion would be appropriate at this point, or we would request a motion to enter into closed session under North Carolina General Statute, Section 143-318.11A3, to consult with your town attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege, which is hereby acknowledged, and to consider and give instructions to that attorney concerning the handling or settlement of a claim or judicial action.
So we have a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Opposed?
I knew I already had it in here.
Sweet.
All right, we're going to closed session.
All right, you guys behave.
You're going to come in there anyway, right?
No, I'm not.
Hey, does anybody have any candy now that we've eaten it all? Got a motion to adjourn?
Moved. So moved.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are we in quorum?
Yeah.
You're good.
1, 2, 3,
Hey, can I
4.
take the gavel too? No, I'm just kidding.
You can, we'll just, we'll take it out of Andrew's.
We'll just
taxes.
cross-charge it. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and,
Take it out of his water bill or something.
add it to his water bill, what do it do?
I would say we should all go get a pint. I don't think anything's open now.
No, it is. Have a good
Good
evening.
night. Take care.
Good night.